Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about those first round matchups, just gave a quick preview. We obviously will get into those in more detail and next week and break down those games and pick those games in no uncertain terms. But let's get into my full predictions for the CFP. Obviously, this is not the end all be all. My picks could change even from the first round. There's some injury news that could come out. There's a level of play in the first round games could change my second round picks, and just my confidence could totally change. Because frankly, I changed a lot of these picks probably 10 different times yesterday. So this is what I have right now. There's a reality where it could change. I won't lie to you. So let's go ahead and get into this thing, and it's going to be very, very tough. It's going to be a tournament that you feel like there could be upsets, but when you look at the matchups, you don't feel great about it. It's going to be a battle, but this is what we got right now. As we all know, this is the field that we see it, and I'll start with those first round matchups, and we'll start up top. We'll start with the main one, Ohio State, Tennessee. This is a really, really tough one to pick. It's so tough to figure out what's going to happen in this game. It's really tough to figure out who Ohio State is after that Michigan loss. Where is their head at? How can they play? But frankly, I'll stay with football here. I think that Tennessee D-line is going to absolutely eat this day. I think they're going to dominate that Ohio State offensive line. I don't think there will be much running room at all, and they have athletes on the outside to where if you want to run outside, they're going to be able to make plays. And then I just think Nico has something. I think he's going to be able to make a couple of plays here to make the difference in this game. I'll take Tennessee. I think Tennessee wins this game. I think they move on to the next round to play Oregon, and I think Ryan Day is fired as the Ohio State head coach, and chaos ensues. So a lot of stuff would be happening from this game. Ohio State obviously on a very have a big time spotlight on them. I just don't think they're going to deliver. I'll take Tennessee to win that game. Going to be a tough one, but I'll take the Vols. We'll move over to the right side here. Notre Dame, Indiana. Going to be a really interesting one. The battle for Indiana, as I said it. Without Benjamin Morrison, I'm a little bit worried about what that back end can do against a guy like Elijah Surratt. But it comes down to Notre Dame's front. It comes down to the physicality of Notre Dame's front. I think that running game is going to be an absolute problem for Indiana. They have been incredible against the run this year. This Notre Dame run offense is just so diverse. It has so many different guys that can hurt you. Jeremiah Love can make you hurt in 2 seconds. I think Notre Dame wins this one. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I think it could have quite a few points in it, kind of like that USC Notre Dame game, but I think they make enough plays. I think that run game takes them to victory. I'll take Notre Dame in that matchup. Then you do have Clemson, Texas. This is a tough one. There's no doubt about that. It's really tough to get a beat on this one because Texas is really tough to get a beat on. That offense is one of those things that I feel like they're only 1 or 2 tweaks away from being a championship level offense. But can they make those tweaks? Do they have the ability to make the changes that they need to make in the next couple of weeks to face a really athletic, really fun group with Clemson? I just don't think Clemson's going to have enough offensively. I don't think they're going to be able to get the explosive plays that they want. I don't think that run game, especially if Phil Maffa does not go, is going to have much room to get much of anything. I'll take Texas in a very defensive battle. I think it's going to be a fight. I think Texas is going to be sweating just a little bit there, but I do think Texas wins. They move on to the next round to play Arizona State. Then we got Penn State, SMU, the weirdest one of the bunch as far as I'm concerned, the one that I am very confused by. SMU is going to try to rock the world, or shock the world. SMU is going to try to prove that they belong in the field over Alabama. I think the cold and physicality of Penn State is just going to be too much. I understand the whole not trusting James Franklin in these games, and I totally get that. There's no doubt about that. But the way that I look at this thing, I just think the cold's going to be too much. I think that Penn State offense kind of rolls, and I think Penn State wins by 14 points in that one, if I'm being honest. So I'll take Penn State to win. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, and this is one of those that I went back and forth on just a little bit, but that weather is just too much for me to overlook. But that's what I got. I got Oregon against Tennessee. I got Texas against Arizona State, UGA against Notre Dame, Penn State against Boise State. And now we got to pick those. And we'll start with Oregon, Tennessee, a very interesting one, and definitely will give a lot of fuel to the SEC versus Big Ten battle. That's definitely going to be a thing that is going to get a lot of fans riled up. And the way that I look at it, I think it's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be battle, and I think Tennessee will be able to hold their weight. That Tennessee back end is just not good enough to hold up against these Oregon wide receivers. I'll take Oregon to win that game, move on to the semifinals, feel really good about where they are after that game. Notre Dame UGA, this will be Gunnar Stockton. That has been kind of released over the last couple of days. I do not expect Carson Beck to be the quarterback throughout this thing for Georgia, so at the very least in this game, he will not be playing. They will be playing Notre Dame, and the question is, can they keep up? You know, Notre Dame's in one of those positions where they're going to smell blood in the water. They're going to feel very confident going into this game without Georgia's starter. The reality is, if you're giving me Kirby Smart with 24 days to prepare, if you're giving me Gunnar Stockton with 24 days to get right in this offense, I'm going to take Georgia to win that one. I'll take Georgia over Notre Dame in that battle. Definitely going to be a really fun one and could change depending on how Notre Dame looks in that first round. But as of right now, I'm going to bet on Kirby Smart. I'm going to bet on 24 days to figure all of that stuff out. I'm going to bet on Georgia to win that game. And then we'll go back down to the bottom. Texas against Arizona State. This is a fascinating one. I think a lot of people are going to end up picking Arizona State in this game because they are so hard to slow down. That offensive scheme is as good as you possibly get in the country. Cam Scadaboo is one of the best players in the country, and there's a lot of juice around this one. There's no doubt about that. I think Texas is going to be able to stop the run. They're one of the best run defenses in the country. Arizona State hasn't quite faced a team with the physicality level of Texas. I think they're able to at least slow down Cam Scadaboo. I don't think they're going to stop him by any means, but I think they'll be able to slow him down, not get them the big-time plays downfield, and I think Texas wins probably another defensive battle in that one. Unless they figured out the offense, then maybe they're able to pull away a little bit, but I think that's going to be a really fun game. I'll take Texas to win that one in a fight. Then you have Boise State, Penn State, and this one is going to be really interesting. Two really elite rushing attacks going at each other. Ashton Jeanty trying to become an outright legend in college football. I just think Penn State's too big right now. I think they're too big. I think they're too fast. I think Madsen is going to make a couple of mistakes in that game. I'll go with the Nittany Lions. This one was a little bit tougher because I thought Ashton Jeanty could just take over this game in some respects, but I'll go with Penn State. I think the physicality advantage is going to be enough for them to make the difference, and I think they move on to the next round where they're going to get Georgia. It's going to be Georgia against Penn State, Oregon against Texas, two very fun matchups. The matchups that kind of look like they're setting up right now, right? The way we look at this right now, a lot of people are picking Ohio State to make a little bit of a run, but as of right now, these were the four teams playing in the Big Two championships this past weekend. I expect them to face off in a little bit of a cross-conference matchups this time around, and we'll start with Oregon against Texas. This is a great one. There's no doubt about that. Two very interesting offenses. Oregon obviously very efficient. Texas obviously missing a lot of the efficiency that they need. I still think they have that gear that they can flip, which would be Arch Manning, and we'll talk about that tomorrow in more depth, and I'll give you my official take on that. But I just think the efficiency of the Oregon offense is just going to be too much. I think they have too many ways to attack you. I think even against elite defenses, they are able to find openings. I think Dylan Gabriel's executing this offense at an elite level. I'll take Oregon to win that game. I think it's going to be a really fun one, but I'll take Oregon. And then Georgia, you're in a really familiar position. Penn State, not so much. You're in the world of unknown if you're Penn State here, but it's exactly where you want to be. There's no doubt about that, and it's going to be a really interesting one. The Penn State run game could definitely get going against this Georgia team. But when it comes down to it, it's Kirby against James Franklin. I'm going to take Kirby Smart 10 times out of 10. So I'm going to take Georgia to win that one. I think it could be a really fun battle. I think they could get after each other, but I just can't pick against Kirby Smart and for James Franklin in that moment. So I'm going to take Kirby Smart. I'm going to take the Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm going to take Oregon against Georgia. In the national title, the top two seeds, I think, will find their way there. I think it's going to be a really fun one. I'll be totally honest. These are two teams that are really fun to face off against each other. Dan Lanning obviously facing off against his former boss and Kirby Smart. Georgia looking to get 3 of 4 national titles. It all comes down to one game. It's going to be incredible to watch. Oregon has been the more consistent team. They've been the more complete team. They've been more talented. They are physically imposing. Georgia has that thing. I can't pinpoint what that thing is. I don't know what that thing is. It's hard to get an idea of what is happening over in Athens, Georgia right now. But it just looks like a team that's not going to be denied. It just looks like a team that knows that Carson Beck is not going to play throughout this thing and everyone else is going to pick up the slack. I'm going to take Georgia to win it. In a year that feels insane, and it kind of feels insane to make this pick, I'm just going to take the team that I feel like has the mental toughness to get there. I'm going to take the team that I feel like every single time they get down in the game, every single time they get punched and they get knocked down, they're more than willing to get back up and return punches. So I'm going to go with Georgia. I think when you look across this slate, I could probably pick 4 or 5 different teams throughout this playoff to possibly make a run and win a national title, but I'm going to go with the team that knows what this is about. I'm going to go with the coach that knows what his job is at Georgia, and it's to win national titles. He's done it 2 out of the last 3 years. I think he makes it 3 for 4. That's just the way I see it right now. Obviously, that could change as we go throughout this thing. Maybe Oregon's playing incredible football, Georgia's stumbling through games, and I pick Oregon. So that's not necessarily to say that's exactly how I'm going to pick these games as we go through this thing. Might not even be how I pick the first round games in a couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens throughout this thing. Obviously, a lot of different updates and things that could happen, but that's what I got. I got Oregon against Georgia. I got Georgia winning that thing in Atlanta, in their home state, and those people going crazy. That's the way that I have it playing out. Going to be a weird one, and frankly, I could see Georgia losing to Notre Dame. So it's going to be crazy. We'll see what happens in that one, and definitely a lot of juice going into this, and I feel okay about my pick for Georgia right now. But let's take our third break, and when we come back, let's talk about the transfer portal. There's a lot of different things happening around the transfer portal. Officially opened on Monday, and there's a lot of people finding their way in, a lot of very talented people finding their way in. So let's break it down right after this, so stick with us.